of course, I miss the city, and can't wait for it to get back to.
Well, I mean, the city is not really the city yet, is it? So
yeah. So
anyway, I'll let you do your thing. I'm just
no, I'm just waiting for Ilya. Hi. You must be as good as me with technology. We can see you.
Oh, he's connecting to audio.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to formally meet you, Ilya.
Yes, after all these years. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Look at you.
Hello.
Oh, and there's
this is the only room where I set up my camera. Ilya, long time no see. Ilya knows this room by now.
So this is your home, Michael?
Yeah, this is my home.
Beautiful. Is that a mirror or is it two pianos?
Oh, yeah. No, there isn't. No, there are two pianos here. It's not a mirror.
I wasn't sure if it's a mirror image. Okay.
No, especially for COVID days, they don't touch mine, I don't touch theirs.
Great. Well, wonderful. How are you all? Do you all know each other? Well, I know Ilya and Michael know each other. Do you know Tanya?
Not yet.
No.
Never met.
We never met. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So yes, Tanya lives in Manhattan, in New York, and we actually used to live literally a block away from each other. So, and we know each other for many years.
I've known you. I met you when I was
since mid-90s.
17 or 18 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we know each other for a long time. And Michael used to be a teacher at the piano school of New York for a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like, well, it's almost 2 decades ago, right?
Yes. And Ilya, I've never met, but Ilya knows my teacher, Olga Pavlova, from Moscow.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like a small, small world, right? 6 degrees of separation, so to speak. And just between you, I'm probably going to mention it, but I didn't know it that Ilya and Michael are very close. I never knew that because it doesn't mention it in either of their profiles or their bios, but Ilya has been mentoring Michael for many, many years. And so
no, I have different versions of the bios. It depends which bio.
Yeah, but that is very neat.
The one on the conservatory, they didn't put it.
Yes. So when I asked Michael to join this workshop, and I said, well, Ilya is also going to join, and I said, do you know him? And he goes, of course I know him. So that was kind of neat, and I didn't know that, so I thought it was kind of meant to be, in a way, right? So how are you guys all doing? How are you coping with the pandemic?
Well, Ilya, how is it in Japan for you guys?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm fine.
Japan is
there
great.
is nothing much.
Where are you in Japan? Are you in a big city or?
I'm in Tokyo. Yeah, I'm in the center of Tokyo. Well, not center, but Tokyo. Yeah.
You guys didn't have any lockdowns, right? Or you did?
No, not actually. It's very strange, but Tokyo really hasn't changed much. I was in New York. I wasn't able to fly to Tokyo. I was supposed to do it in April, and I was in New York, experiencing all the pleasures of being in the city during the
lockdown.
The height. Yeah, and in Manhattan.
I mean, that was intense. That was intense, wasn't it?
It was intense, absolutely. And when I came back to Tokyo, it was very strange because as if nothing happened basically.
You know, Ilya, my mother's Japanese, so I was actually in Japan all of December, and then because my father was very ill, and then I was in there in February when all of this stuff was happening with the cruise. Do you remember?
Right, right. Of course.
Yeah. So when I came back to New York, everyone was like, "Oh my God, you've been to Japan!" You know, little realizing that Japan was one of the best places to be. So I know my brother lives in Tokyo. It's great. It's the perfect place to be.
Yes, I mean, although not now they say that it is getting a little bit, you know, high. You know, the cases are rising, so we don't know what's. Yeah. Anyway.
No, but Japan, everyone is so clean and everyone wears masks even without COVID, right?
Absolutely,
So,
mostly people, exactly. So people wear masks even before all this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
we always thought, at least me, oh my God, you know, why are they wearing masks, right? Mm-hmm.
I never ever thought New York, because I come back from Japan and I was like, nobody's going to wear a mask in New York. I cannot imagine it, you know, but now you don't see anyone without a mask in New York now, even in the park, in the depths of the woods.
Yeah.
Not where I am now, but yeah. But
yeah, not where you are.
There's literally a few hundred people in our village, period. And so it's a very vast land, right? Farmland. So people not close to each other at all. So yeah, when I go walk the dog, I'll be lucky if I even see a person. So yeah, there's nobody here.
Or unlucky.
Yeah. So we're gonna go live exactly at 8. So just you know how we work. Don't do any of the technological things, and we have our staff person Jude Kim, who is hiding behind our logo, and he is going to montage everything, play the videos and show pictures and things like that upon my cue. So. And just so that you also understand, we are going to be live, right? We didn't do that before, thinking, it's better to prepare, but then we still had problems. So we figured, you know what, we're just going to go live and not worry about that. So.
But are we staying here on Zoom, right? We're not switching
on Zoom, but it's going to
Okay.
link to Facebook.
So we should all be on mute, probably, right? So that.
Well, not necessarily, unless you want to.
I'll be on mute unless you speak to me.
Oh yeah, well, we see you first, so yeah. Okay. But I guess maybe it's a good idea for Michael and Ilya to be on mute until until I guys speak with you. And so just, you know, it doesn't have to be that way, but in order for it not to be too long, right, I am thinking 20 minutes per person. So that's why we play very short excerpts from your music, and we'll post the full links of your music performances in the comments. But we'll just play a minute, 2-minute tops to kind of give an idea of your artistry, and majority of it is just conversation, okay? So great, I'm excited. I never knew I was going to be doing this. And,
that's great.
Yeah, becoming a TV producer. What do you think?
It fits you.
Right. So yeah, 5 more minutes.
So where are you, Michael? Where are you?
I'm in Toronto these days for the last 7-8 years. I was in the States for about 10 years, 11 years, and then I moved here. My family moved here.
Nice.
You're surrounded by Russians, Tanya.
I know, I love it.
Do you have anything Russian or no? Just Tanya by chance?
Tanya by chance. But I mean, obviously, being a musician, I'm surrounded by Russians all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But, starting with you, Vera.
Yeah, that's right.
We met in Naumov. We were in Naumov.
Ilya studied with Naumov.
Ah, yeah, he was so magical.
So Tanya studied with Lev Naumov at the festival in Germany.
Really? Where is it? Where was
In
it?
Lübeck. I did a few pieces with him. Yeah.
Yeah, so she actually met him and his wife, right? You know.
And the translator, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, he was just something special. Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss his voice, you know, such a special voice. You know, you could tell so much. I couldn't understand what he was saying through his words, but I could tell, you know.
We couldn't sometimes either, actually.
Really?
Even when yes.
So
well, because a lot of what he was transmitting was well, it was some through words, but a lot of it through gesticulation and of course his...
Yeah.
Okay, 3 minutes left, so make sure you go on mute, Ilya.
Unmute.
But
sorry, I'm so ignorant in this, but when I go on mute, I can still hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you're just like me, don't worry.
Okay, and then would you like give me a warning that, you know?
Oh, of course, yes, of course, absolutely. Just think about 20-25 minutes from we start, it's gonna be your turn.
Okay, excellent.
At least that's the plan. We'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm thinking. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, and people talk, and of course it's great, but sometimes, you know.
Yeah. But you can ask questions, right? That you're gonna kind of.
Yeah. I have your bio and
a monologue.
Yeah, I'm just gonna follow your bio and pull from there and ask you to explain things, and yeah.
Okay.
So 2 minutes.
Okay.
Where in Tokyo are you, Ilya?
I'm in area called, do you know Tokyo? Well, you've been here many times. Yeah. It's not so far from Ikebukuro.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually it's very quiet and beautiful, actually, surprisingly in a way, because, you know.
Yeah.
When you think of Tokyo, it's of course huge, bustling metropolis, but this is very.
Not always, I know. Yeah.
It's very cozy, very nice. Yeah.
Nice. 1 minute.
My brother loves living in Tokyo because you can get to the mountains so quickly and you get to the beach so quickly.
Absolutely.
It's such a comfortable place to live. It's so safe.
Exactly, precisely. Although I've never been to the beach here. I didn't even know that there is one. But you have to tell me later. What?
Yeah, they just went to an amazing beach holiday, I think, in some of the islands south. It was
you mean not in Tokyo, of
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Okay.
Jude, so at exactly 8 o'clock, you can put us live. And we are live on Facebook, going live. This is my first time. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live from Anselmo Academy of Music and the Arts. Welcome to the series we created during this pandemic that we call Music is Life, where we feature leading musicians, teachers, composers, and anyone else really who is involved in music industry. Our goal is to share inspirational stories, music performances, and great conversations. Anselmo Academy of Music and the Arts is celebrating its 20th year anniversary this school year, and we are proud and honored to be offering music and arts education to thousands of students in New York metropolitan area during the last almost 2 decades. Our true signature programs, however, are enrichment group classes that we have organized at multiple schools, community centers, senior centers, and to individuals with learning disabilities. We hope you all stay safe during this pandemic and enjoy our live broadcast today. Today, we have 3 concert pianists leaders in this industry and mentors to many aspiring artists and international audiences. Welcome. We have Tanya Bannister in New York. Hello, Tanya.
Hi.
Ilya Itin in Tokyo. And Michael Berkovsky from Toronto. Wonderful. Welcome, you guys. You all serve on the honorary board at Anselmo Academy of Music and the Arts. And this board is comprised of performing artists, teachers, musicians from all walks of life. And you support our organization with your name and provide moral support to our educational programs. And we want to thank you very much for being part of that board. Okay, so without any further ado, our first guest, Tanya Bannister. Welcome, Tanya.
Hi, thank you.
Just a brief introduction before we kind of dig into all the details. You are a concert pianist, you are an entrepreneur, you are a philanthropist, and as of the last several years, you become a president of Concert Artists Guild organization. And we're gonna cover all of that in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to play the excerpt you provided from your performance of Haydn Trio. Can you tell us just briefly, where was this, who you were playing with, etc.?
Sure. This was in Reno, Nevada over Christmas when we had amazing musicians from all over the world, actually, that would never normally be free, but happened to be free over Christmas and New Year. And so this was just one of the performances that I had with.
And when was that?
This was like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember. I have to look.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you name the performers? Can you tell us who you're playing with?
Yeah, sure. I was playing with Emilio Colón, who's the cellist, and I was also playing with the violinist Josef Špaček.
Okay, wonderful. Can we please play Haydn Trio excerpt? Fantastic. Thank you so much. I love your energy, Tanya. you're really leading that trio. So let's go back to the very beginning, your childhood and your beginning studies of piano, and you can tell us more in detail. So you are born in Hong Kong to a Japanese mother and a British father. And Michael was joking about it. Are you sure you're not Russian?
I know, I wish I was.
With the name like Tanya, right?
I love Russian literature, yeah.
What's your father's first name?
Ita, so Tatiana
Petrovna. Okay, fantastic. So you lived in Hong Kong, and tell us a little bit about you. We're going to show pictures in a few minutes, and I think that's where you were at the piano with your mom. So was your mom your first teacher? Tell us more.
No, God, thank God, no. But she was definitely at the piano a lot with me. But no, it was, how it is as a young pianist, you need a lot of support from the family. So I had a very intense, musical upbringing. They're not, the Asian population are not scared of working those children hard as the Russians, the same as the Russians. So yeah, I mean, and so I won a few competitions as a young girl, and actually one of the first people that heard me at this competition with like 200 Chinese children, and I was like the only non-Chinese child that played. And he was the head of keyboard at the Royal Academy of Music, and he went to my mother and said, "Oh, you should take care of her." So she took him very seriously. And so, I had, a very intense upbringing of a lot of.
So how long did you live in Hong Kong before you moved to London?
I was born, my father was a pilot for Cathay Pacific. So I was there until I was about 12.
Okay.
And then I moved for music, but mostly by myself, not with my parents.
Great. Yeah. Can we show some pictures of Tanya in her childhood?
But I've forgotten what I gave you.
Yeah.
But but my mother was, of course, came to every lesson, and she was helping to make sure I was doing what I was supposed to do.
Here you are.
Yeah. So there's my mother.
So were you like 5 years old or something?
I guess so. Yeah, 5, 6 years old, and making sure I was doing. She took notes. She made sure I was doing what I was supposed to do. But they always said, you don't need to do this if you don't want to. I remember music being my refuge, and if you've been to Hong Kong, it's not a very it's just a lot of fun, a lot of energy. But for me, classical music was my home,
That's great. Wonderful. And so then you moved to London, and you studied with Christopher Elton and Hamish Mill. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was kind of all over the place. I really wanted to go and study with Secura Costa, who's a Portuguese pianist. So I actually was in London for a year, and then I went and I studied with Secura Costa in Kansas for a few years. And then I came back, and I was just very restless, I don't know what I was trying to find, but maybe myself. But it took a long time for me to settle down. And then I went to Germany. I studied with Karl-Heinz Kemmerling. I studied in Italy in this Accademia Pianistica, which was a very intense piano school. And then finally, I settled at Yale with Claude Frank, where I stayed for 3 years. And so New York has really been the place I've lived the longest.
So I'd like to understand a little bit. So being in Asia and Europe and traveling all around, was this the first time you actually settled in US when you came to Yale?
No, because I was in Kansas studying with Secura Costa for 2 years, and I was 14 to 16.
Okay.
So I was definitely so I got my driving license in Kansas.
Okay, great. And so then after Yale, where you studied with Claude Frank, you went to study with Richard Good at Manus.
It's so confusing. It's not interesting, the timeline. I went back to London for 2 years, then I came back to study with Richard Good. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And how long was that?
So that was when I also won Concert Artists Guild, and I got management in New York, and I had a boyfriend in New York. So a lot of, a few things that kind of brought me here. But yeah, it was kind
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the two major competitions that you became a gold winner. 2003 Concert Artists Guild International Competition, and in 2005 you won New Orleans International Piano Competition. Tell us a little bit about your life around that time.
I mean, I didn't do a ton of competitions. I mean, Concert Artists Guild, I mean, obviously now I run it, is really an organization that supports and helps launch young musicians' careers and gives them the support that they need to do that, and management and the exposure. And then New Orleans I actually won that competition the year that Katrina happened. So it was quite, in a way, it was also the beginning of my philanthropic life, because I just had an amazing time in New Orleans and I'd won the competition, and there were so many amazing people that were so supportive and generous while I was there. And then a month later, the whole place was devastated. So that was the point where I gathered a few past winners and we raised $100,000 for the arts organization in New Orleans. Yeah.
Amazing. And was it your first time of being part of the, philanthropical
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it was the first time I really was very proactive in organizing something that was going to benefit something other than myself. Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. And so I also want to cover the fact that you are an entrepreneur. You co-founded Alpen Kammer Music, which is a chamber music festival in Austria. And you also co-founded Roadmaps Festival in New York City, which is an artistic, humanitarian, and cultural venture. So let's start with the Alpen Kammer Music. Tell us about both.
Well, I was in my 20s and clueless enough to believe that I could do this. So we started a tiny music festival in the tiny village in Austria. I got support from someone that I was close to in New York. And he said, well, instead of doing it with students, because you're still young, why don't you start an amateur festival? And then you and pros can play together with these amateurs, and you can make the festival sustainable. So we did that, and we got some seed money, and it's evolved to all the faculty and all my friends eventually started, became, teaching at major universities. So it became more than an amateur festival. It's now a festival that really kind of is a cross range of levels and pre-professionals, professionals, and amateurs. And I run it together now with an amazing baritone called Randall Scarlata, who's just wonderful at incorporating, lieder into the chamber music repertoire as well. So it's just been a lot of fun, I wasn't trying to do anything kind of special except to play with people I love to play with in a beautiful occasion and try to make it sustainable,
Right. And so tell us also about Roadmaps Festival, which is very unique, and you feature contemporary music primarily there, or?
Not necessarily. We're just trying, with Roadmaps, it started 3 or 4 years ago, where we wanted to use the arts to kind of bring emotional depth to current issues. So not just music, but also the arts. So we used artists and documentary film, and it was one of the most interesting times for me to play, because we did 2 festivals on Syria and the issues that were surrounding Syria. So I premiered and a beautiful piano composition by this American Syrian composer called Kareem Roustom.
Wonderful. This is a perfect timing for us to play your second selection of Aleppo Songs, written by a Syrian composer.
That's right. American Syrian composer. Yeah, he's written for a lot of major orchestras in the States also, and he's got an incredible kind of list of people that have played his works. But this is his piano composition.
Fantastic, thank you. And so lastly, I'd like to ask you some questions. Tell us a little bit about, Concert Artists Guild, since you're so involved with the organization. Tell us what you do. Tell us about latest happenings there.
Well, yeah, no, it's not something I anticipated doing as a musician, but someone approached me. And what I was interested in doing was to bring my experience as a pianist with my perspective of this kind of very narrow training and perspective that we're given, especially as pianists and probably, certain string instruments as well, which I think is not necessarily helpful to have a career in music now. So that was interesting for me to bring that perspective to my job now. So it's more, I'm leading kind of trying to figure out what young musicians need to have a multifaceted, fulfilling career that's meaningful and satisfying to them, but also is connective to their audiences. So that's what we're doing now. So we have an annual competition where musicians audition to come onto our roster, and we're just starting a leadership program now. So musicians have the skills to self-manage, self-market, but also have some authentic voice of what they're trying to do with their music to connect to the world that we live in a little bit now. So it's interesting, it's kind of a different world to even 15 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you just wait by the phone and hope for your manager to ring for concerts,
Yes.
Now with media, social media, and also with the digital age, you can do so much by yourself now.
Very true.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tanya. Is there anything else you'd like to add? If I didn't ask you any questions, but you wanted to say something, please feel free.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hear what everybody else has to say.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank
Ilya,
you.
yes, Ilya, so you can unmute yourself. And we are moving. Welcome, Ilya. How are you?
Hello, thank you.
Yes, of course. Very nice to formally meet you. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'd like to give a little introduction about who you are. You are a concert pianist. You are, leading performer with many orchestras, chamber musician, and you're also a teacher and mentor to many young musicians. I'd like to give some quotes from Daily Telegraph in London, who were describing your playing as poised, pure, and ravishing in its range of color. Itin playing is prime example of superb technique put at the surface of an inquiring and imaginative mind. And one other BBC critic said, I go hear him play the phone book, which I thought was very cute and funny. So before we go into detail about your life, I'd like to play a first video where you are announced the winner of 1996 International Leeds Competition.
The Burton Trust, the Princess Mary Gold Medal, the Bunkamora Orchard Hall Award, Ilya Itin.
And this is a very popular decision here in the hall. It's the same as the viewers' poll, same as me and Ian too. A terrific, terrific moment for him. The winner of the 1996 Leeds International Piano Competition. Ilya Itin from Russia.
Bravo. Such a great, great performance. And of course, congratulations on such a phenomenal win. But let's go back to the beginning of your life, right? As a child starting piano lessons. So you were born in Yekaterinburg, I can't even say it, but it was Sverdlovsk when we were growing up in Soviet Union. So it was Sverdlovsk, which is east of Moscow.
Yes.
I would say at least what, 12 hours away, maybe by train or car, at least.
Oh, by train, it's even longer. I think by train, about 24 hours, I would say.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
Yeah.
I was way off. I've never been, so I don't know. And so you grew up there, and so tell us your first piano lessons. Who was your teacher or teachers? And let's start there.
I was very lucky to have a fantastic teacher who she was not just a teacher, she was everything for me. And I could say that she practically raised me. And I stayed with her from the age of, I guess, 6 to 18.
Oh, wow. What was her name?
Natalia Litvinova. By the way, she was also Michael Berkovsky's teacher. So.
Yes, wonderful.
An amazing person, and really, really special person in my life.
Wonderful. And so, so you've studied, was it like a central music school type where you went? Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was same system as the Central Music School was in Moscow. So it was called a special music school, and it was adjunct to the local conservatory, the Ural. Yeah.
And were your parents musicians? Did you grow up?
No, they're not musicians. Although my father is a music lover, and he still has a collection of records, mostly Baroque music. So
great.
Yeah, and we had a piano in the house. So I played. Actually, I started playing even before my piano lessons. In fact, I don't remember myself not playing the piano.
So from what you're saying, if I may ask, so was it ever that you didn't want to practice as a child because so many kids rebel?
I never wanted to practice.
You never wanted to practice?
No, I never wanted to practice, but I wanted to play.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, yes. So you wanted to play and you wanted to perform. And so at which point in your life, since your parents were not musicians, who was helping you at home with practicing? Nobody.
Nobody really, and in fact, I was always very irritated when somebody would try to help me, because various members of the family at some point would interject and comment on my practicing habits, which they considered to be very unfocused. My father would tell me, what are you playing? You're not practicing, you're just playing. And in fact, just the other day we were talking about, he remembered that, and he was telling me that I told him to just get off my way and not interfere. Exactly. And actually my teacher was very at times frustrated with that, because she considered it to be counterproductive. She felt she sensed a lack of my parents' involvement in my homework, basically. But in retrospect, when I look back, I think that there were good and bad things about it. And the good thing was that I learned to be independent from a very, very early age. And sometimes maybe I feel a bit sorry that maybe I could have done more if if my childhood habits were more focused, and if I was more disciplined as a child. But on the other hand, I don't think I would become who I am right now if I were disciplined. So it goes both. Yeah.
Of course. So at which point did you decide to come to Moscow? Was it just a natural choice that you always wanted? You always saw yourself coming to Moscow?
At that age, I really didn't have much any idea of what my life is going to be like. And I've always loved music and I always loved playing, but I didn't have any specific plans how to build my career. And actually it was my teacher, Natalie, who I introduced that idea that it was at all possible. I don't think I was not even aware of that at that time. So it's because of her that I went to Moscow, and also went to teacher that I studied with in Moscow.
And so did you know you were going to try and study with Lev Naumov, who is a very famous Russian pedagogy, for those who don't know, in Moscow Conservatory?
Yes, actually, I played for several teachers, several musicians, and immediately before my entrance exams, and immediately when I played for Lev Naumov, and when he offered me some advice, and I immediately felt certain kinship, and I knew from that moment that I wouldn't want to be with anybody else, that I wouldn't want to study with anybody else. So
I can definitely relate. I love his style and charisma, and just the way he hears music is very unique, and of course he's full of artistry and harmony.
Absolutely.
And he hears things that nobody else can hear, and you go, oh, how is it possible that I've never heard this way before? So fantastic. So you studied at Moscow Conservatory with one of the best well-known Russian pedagogy. And so tell me, how did you end up at Leeds Competition? Let's talk about Leeds Competition.
Oh, it was years later. I already I was already living in the States, actually. So
also, so let's take a step back then.
Yeah.
So why did you leave and when?
It's a good question. I don't know if I'd be able to answer you intelligibly, but it was actually an accident in a way. When I was graduating conservatory, some friends of mine sent a tape of my playing to a piano competition in the States, actually, which it was William Capell competition, University of Maryland. And I got accepted to that competition. So it was 1990, and at that time it was very much, there was so much uncertainty. I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to go because of all kinds of complications. There were no airplane tickets. You couldn't get a visa. There were all sorts of things. Anyway, to put a long story short, I was able to go, and so I got a prize at that competition. And at that time, one of Naumov's assistant, Vladimir Viardov, he was living in the States, and he was actually a artist in residence in University of North Texas. So he asked me, well, why don't you stay here?
Mhm.
I thought, yeah, why not actually? And you know, I came actually to US with a 6 days visa for 6 days for the competition, and that's how it happened.
You glitched for a second, at least on my end. So you
Yeah.
said you came for 6 days, and then what happened?
No, my visa was for 6 days. My US visa was for 6 days, and after I won a competition, I also was offered some performances as one of the winners, and also Vladimir Viardo offered me to come to Texas and to enroll in English school and stay in the US.
Okay.
So that's how it happened. It was not planned at all. It was all very spontaneous, actually.
Great. And so you stayed in Texas.
Yes.
Is that you became your residency there? Okay. And so
yes.
And so take us to Leeds competition. Let's go back to that part.
Right. Right.
It seems like such a big highlight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So to move to fast forward a few years, at that time I was living in New York already, and I already had several competitions in my portfolio, so to speak, some prizes, and actually I applied to previous Leeds competition, and I didn't go because I had some concert engagements. And I've never been to England, to UK before that, and I thought that would be a good excuse. So I applied again, and actually, when I applied that time, I got a very kind of warning, I would say, warning letter from the committee saying that if you you know, we accept you, but if you don't come this time, we're going to report you to to international federation. I don't know, something like this. So I was very scared. So I thought, well, I have to come definitely. It's, of course, joking aside, I was just very happy to come to England because I had so much. I've read so much English literature, and I had this picture of good old England, and I remember coming to London, and especially to Leeds, which is of course a bit away from London. So and when I met wonderful people there, and it did all look like what I imagined, and it felt like what I imagined. Good old England.
Great. We're going to play the finale, part of the finale of the Rachmaninoff Paganini Variations from Leeds.
Ilya Itin, 29 years old, from Ekaterinburg in Russia, has just played a thrilling performance of the Rhapsody on the theme of Paganini by Rachmaninoff, with the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra conducted by Simon Rattle.
Great, congratulations again. And so since Leeds, tell us how your life has changed. And, you know, how did you, so you lived in the United States, now you live in Tokyo. Tell us the story as to between then and your current life.
Well, many things happen. In fact, just looking at this video now, it gave me a very strange feeling, because it's almost as if I'm looking at somebody else and I'm thinking, well, was it really me? You know, because it's been a while actually. So, I did many things since the competition, played with all major orchestras, recitals, traveled everywhere, did some recordings, all the usual things. And now I divide my time between New York and Tokyo, mostly. I mean, I go to some other places as well, but this is where I am now, in Tokyo.
So what brought you to Tokyo?
What brought me to Tokyo? I was invited. Actually, I came to Tokyo for the first time shortly after Leeds in '96. I gave a recital here and played with the orchestra. And a few years after that, I was also invited to give some master classes and again perform. And again, a few years later, after a while, this relationship developed, and I was asked to stay longer at the school where I was teaching first at the summer courses. So this is how it all came to being, so to speak.
And in New York, you I also see that you taught at Juilliard a little bit, didn't you?
Yes, I did teach at Juilliard at some point. First as a guest teacher. Actually, I was asked to do some guest teaching. Then I did teach. Well, actually, formally, it was pre-college, but I was also teaching some college students as well. Yes, I did a few years of that as well.
And we're gonna mention it later, but you know, Michael Berkovsky, who is our next guest, has been, you know, mentored by you, and we didn't even know that. But Michael have disclosed that he's been under your wing, so to speak, for many years, and you are good friends.
Yes, we're friends. I don't consider myself a mentor, though. Yes, Michael absolutely played for me, you know, a few times, and I'm just very honored and happy that he decided to do that, and I always enjoyed listening to him. Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. And so just mention a few things. So you're an active performer, you do, you play a lot of chamber music, you have performed with, you know, multiple orchestras throughout the world, you do recordings, and so you also teach at the Musashino Academy. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, that's right, yes.
And in Tokyo, the Academy of the Miami International Piano Festival, and the Bolansky Institute at Princeton University. And you, you know, we already mentioned Juilliard, Peabody Conservatory, and the graduate program at SUNY.
SUNY, yes.
Yes, wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we move on to Michael?
Well, I want everybody to be well and healthy and continue to have music in life, because music is not something superfluous. It's not an added thing. It's actually the essence of life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Michael, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And I love your beautiful home with two pianos. How phenomenal that is.
Well, those are only the two in the studio. I have a mini school in my house, so my wife also teaches piano, and we have pianos in every corner of the room these days.
Oh my goodness, amazing. So you are a sought after pianist, you're a chamber musician, you're winner of multiple international competition, and you've performed with multiple orchestra. We're gonna play shortly your performance of Rachmaninoff Third Concerto under baton of Leon Fleischer. And actually, so let's start with that before we go to your childhood. Jude, can we please play Rachmaninoff Third Concerto? First movement. Great, thank you. Michael, tell us a little bit about when was this and where?
So this was in Peabody, where I got my doctorate. I think this was in 2009 or 2010. I won the concerto competition there. And I was very excited when they told me that Leon Fleischer decided that he's going to conduct. We didn't know who's going to conduct this concert. And Leon Fleischer said he would like to take on this concert. And that was, of course, a very exciting news for me.
Absolutely, yes, fantastic. So let's now go back to your childhood. You grew up in Soviet Union. Can you tell us what city you grew up in?
I grew up in Tashkent. So this is the capital of Uzbekistan. And my parents lived there. They moved there temporarily in the early 1980s. And so I was born in 1982. And I don't remember too much from Tashkent, other than I had a pretty good childhood. I didn't start piano very early. I remember that first time I had a lesson was with a friend of my mother's who lived across from us. But that was just a few months before we decided to immigrate to Israel in 1990. So very few memories from Russia.
Are your parents musicians?
Not at all. And kind of like Ilya's parents, it was interesting to listen to Ilya saying that his parents knew when he wasn't practicing properly. I felt like this my whole life, that my parents would come and tell me, you're not practicing slow enough. My mother's favorite comment was like, I heard your teaching saying that you need to lift your fingers. You're definitely not articulating and lifting them. And even these days, I think they criticize me for not practicing properly.
Great. And so you moved to Israel in 1990, and this is where you met the same teacher that was Ilya's teacher back in Russia. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so Ilya met her in Russia, and I met her in Israel. And so I heard about Ilya since I was, I think, about 11. And I even remember the day when he won Leeds, because I didn't know much about Ilya, but I think it was late September, and I think it was Thursday evening, because my lessons were on Thursday, and I was the last student of my teachers, and we were walking back home together, and she told me, and she was very excited. She was almost in tears, saying, Ilya won first prize in Leeds. And she kept telling me, one day you'll meet Ilya. So I heard, and he became somebody I was looking up to since a young age.
Wonderful. And let's show some pictures of Michael at the young age.
That was probably very, very long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, this is, I think, when I was about 6 or 5 in this photo.
And so that's when you kind of started taking piano lessons.
No, I actually started when I was 8, which is considered very late these days. This was the first recital I had with my teacher, Natalie. And I think I'm about 10 or 11 in this photo.
Wonderful. And so, okay, so at which point did your family decide to move to Canada?
Well, Canada, you were talking with Ilya about his move to Moscow. And my move to the US was also heavily influenced by Natalie, who she told me that I should try for Juilliard. And I never...
Sorry, one second. So this is a picture of you with your wife.
Yes, my wife and Ilya. Ilya came to Toronto, I think it was a year or 2 years ago. And he gave a wonderful recital here and a series of master classes. So,
yes, I just want to mention it, that this is, what is your wife's name? I'm sorry.
Coral.
Coral. Mm-hmm. And she's also a pianist and a teacher. So you have a whole a piano family going on.
That's right.
Yes, I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Mm-hmm. About you.
So Natalie was the one that suggested that I try audition for Juilliard. And I hope it's okay by now to disclose that Ilya was helping us in the background a little bit to arrange a lesson, I remember, with Emmanuel Axe. And I got to play for Emmanuel Axe, and he said, you should audition for my studio in Juilliard. And that's where I started my studies. And as soon as I moved to the US, more or less we decided that it would be unlikely that I'll be returning to Israel, simply because of the opportunities that you have in North America as opposed to a small country like Israel. And at that point, they decided to immigrate to Canada.
So why did you not stay in New York?
Well, I was in New York for many years. I was there for 6 years. I got my bachelor's and doctorate, bachelor's and master's. And then for my doctorate, I moved to Peabody, where my girlfriend at the time was there. And financially, it was a more attractive package. And so I pursued my doctorate there. And when I finished, I returned. So I've returned home to live closer to the parents. And it kind of ended up that I was starting to teach more in Toronto, and I was building slowly a base for myself here, and decided to make Toronto my home.
And so you now teach at the Glenn Gould, basically Royal Conservatory in Toronto. Can you tell us a little bit? I've never even been to Toronto. Tell us a little bit about musical life there.
So it was a very new circle for me when I moved here, and I didn't know how extraordinarily rich the life here and what high level we have. Particularly the Taylor Academy where I work at. I work mostly with the what's called the prep department, and a lot of the students that we have, they're participating in major international competitions. So I had the pleasure of working with students who participated and won at the Cleveland International, Gina Bacauer, and one of my students is going for the next international Chopin competition as the winner of the Canadian Chopin competition. So we have an incredible amount of talent here. And this is, for the last 7 years, I've been dedicating much of my time in my life to these amazing young talents.
So you really transitioned to being I know you have a large studio and you teach in different summer festivals, and so how many students do you have in your current?
It varies from week to week, because I'm sure Ilya will tell you the same thing. It depends how many remote students are scheduled for the lesson. I have regular 20 students at the academy, and I also maintain a private studio of around the same number. But I run also a program with my wife, a small school. So I oversee many students over the week.
And how is the pandemic affecting life in Toronto?
I want to say that it's probably like in most places. We don't have classes right now in school, so it's all done online. Some of my private students I'm able to see face to face. And it's great, but you know, I've been teaching online for a while. Even before the pandemic hit, I had students from Canada, from the US, from China that would be taking lessons through Skype. And I sort of got used to this concept of listening to recordings, knowing exactly what I need to look for, or if I listen to them live, knowing what not to pay attention to. So it was maybe the only thing that was new during this time is I was doing more of it.
Let's play the second video that we have, where you play Chrysler Rachmaninoff transcriptions. Where was that recital and when?
I think this is from 4 or 5 years ago in Florida, at a house of a wonderful conductor, William Knoll, whom also I was introduced to through Ilya. I did a series of concerts there, and this was one of the private recitals in his house.
Great. beautiful. I love Chrysler Rachmaninoff transcriptions. Any projects that you're planning? Obviously, it's pandemic, but anything that we should know about your maybe upcoming performances that should happen? Mm-hmm.
Well, right now I'm working on recordings for the next RCM syllabus. So in North America, a lot of our students follow this system, the Royal Conservatory, and it's also, I think, followed sometimes in England and in the US. And I'm one of the recording artists for the next series of CDs and repertoire that will come out in 2022. I worked also with a few composers now on recordings of their pieces, newly composed pieces. So this time has been dedicated more to recordings. And one of the fun things is that I'm going to be performing in Corner Hall and for the recording, but pieces starting from grade 1 all the way to grade 10. And so I'm visiting some of, it's like a travel through the childhood memory lane.
Wonderful. How many pieces are there?
Gosh, I didn't count. I know I have 70 pages of repertoire to cover.
Oh, that's pretty, that's pretty serious. Great. That seems like an interesting project. Anything else that we should know about you? By the way, congratulations on your new baby. You are a new dad for the first time. So congratulations on your daughter. How old is she?
She's 4 months and about 20 days, I think.
Oh, that's beautiful. Congratulations. So yes, tell us if there is anything else you'd like to share.
No, I also want to end on the same note as Ilya did, that I hope our audiences are as excited for the return of concerts in a few months with the vaccines rolling out. And music has certainly kept me not just alive, but also uplifted during these times. And I hope that the music and the arts also can uplift everybody else during this time. So I hope everybody is well, and thank you for having me tonight.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining us this evening or morning in the case of Ilya, who is in Japan. It's a true honor and pleasure to speaking with all of you today. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.